And we're live. Hey everyone, my name is Marco. I'm a mentor at the theFirehoseProject, and we're going to go through an info session. Here's what I want to cover. First, I want to tell you a little bit about what is our core curriculum, how we go through there, what kind of projects you're going to build when you go through our program. I also want to touch about how mentorship sessions work, how we customize our curriculum to match your own goals. And then also I want to talk about kind of the most important questions that I always get asked. It's like, hey Marco, when I come out of the FireHoseProject, what kind of skills do I have? You know, what can I really do? And that's what I want to answer at the very end. Obviously, there's right below me, there are the chat windows. If you have any questions, put it in there. I'm going to watch that. I have my little screen open here on the side. So go in there and ask me any questions, and make sure I answer all of them. And let's get started. So core curriculum, how are we going to do this, right? So first things first is we want you to build something and launch it like it would be happening in the real world. So that means we're building real world web applications and we're shipping them live early and often, right? That's kind of the startup mentality that we really instill in our students. So that means the first 10 hours, we usually want you to build your first application. That is kind of like, we call it Splurty. It's like a simple advice generating web application that we pack so it really looks good on mobile, looks good on tablet, looks good on desktop, right? Takes you about 10 hours. It's something that you can share. We put it live on a server. You can share with your friends. And that's really key, right? It's shipping something live, putting it on the internet so you have something to share with your friends and you can get the first round of user feedback. And that user feedback puts you in the driver's seat as a developer because you realize, oh, wow, I can actually do this. I can get user feedback. I can build something. I can create, right? That's our first 10 hours with us. Next step is we're building a Yelp application together with you. So that Yelp application is a hell of a lot more complicated than the first application, right? That will take you about maybe 2, 3, 4 weeks. And the most important feature I think that you're building and you're taking out of the Yelp application is integrating with the Google Map API. So that means, right, we need to write the code. If somebody types in an address into a form field, we're going to take that address, we change it in latitude and longitude coordinates, and we're going to put that in the database and then pass that on to the Google Map API so we get that little pin on the map, right? Obviously, we need more features. That wouldn't be fun, right? It's a Yelp clone, right? So we always need to create places. So I can create my pizza places, right? Then other people can go and comment and rate my place, right? So there's user comments, user rating. And then there's obviously notifications too, right? So if you were to come to my awesome pizza place and you leave a comment that says, hey, Marco, 5 stars, this is awesome, great pizza, I would get an automated email notification that you just commented and rated my pizza place, right? And so that's kind of the features that we're building with that. Basically, the other thing that we're doing is you're building a user dashboard. So you will have a little bit of analytics that we're packing in there. And that's kind of like, you know, you want to know like how many places do you have, how many comments, how many ratings, how many 5-star ratings did you receive, right? That's the Yelp clone. Takes you about 4 weeks, as I said. Then we bring it up to the next step. Next step is we're going to do a online learning platform, right? That keeps your learning curve steep. And the most important thing there is going really deep into database relationships. What I mean by database relationships is we have a platform, right? So there's going to be instructors. They can upload courses. They can create courses. And we have students who can buy those courses, right? And if I say buy, we're already realizing, oh, a feature that we need to build is accepting payments, right? Upgrading, accessing credit card information, and actually handling payment moving through our platform. But the most important is the database relationships. And what I mean by that is, right, we have the instructors, we have the students, right? Now we need to keep track on the database level what courses did the individual student purchase from which instructors, right? And if we think about it, that's what powers a lot of web applications. And that's really important for us to actually keep track of that on a database level. And that's something really important that we need to have down the line. If we want to be professional web developers, we need to know how to make that happen and relate these individual tables of the database to each other, right? So in essence, if I were to make a course on how to throw a knife, right? And I have video lessons there, then you could purchase that, right? And if I have multiple courses, then I need to keep track, like which one you bought, for which one you can only see the overview video, which one you can see everything, right? And how does this money get moved? What's the cut that I'm getting as instructor versus you build the platform versus how much does the student pay? So all of that we keep in track of, and then obviously we put video streaming technologies, image uploading, that's all what we learned there too. Another thing we do there is we go into JavaScript, and we teach you that at the point where you need it, right? So as an instructor, we do a bit of user experience with JavaScript, because that's where it's like comes in. You can drag and drop things on page without reloading the page, and that's really nice for easier or better user experience, user interface for the instructors coming to that site. That's the core curriculum, right? Takes usually between 6 and 8 weeks. What do we do next? It depends where you want to go. It really depends what your goal is, right? There's two kind of camps. People come to us and like, hey, I have my own idea. I'll launch my own startup. This is my web application. This is my app that I want to build. Then the other one is, I really want a job. I'm a career seeker. I want to switch careers. I want to have a job as a web developer. I want to join a technical team and code with them, right? So what do we do for those people that want a job? We put them on a group project. Now, why are we putting you guys on a group project, right? Because it's really, really important to build software like it is built in the real world. And in the real world, we're building software always as a team. So you need to know how to use the tools, use GitHub for collaborative coding, right? How do you do that? Also, how do you review somebody's code? How do you have your code reviewed? How do you make code that somebody wrote better? How do you break a web application into individual pieces and then pick one out and build that and merge it all together so you have one code base that is coherent and that makes sense that everyone can work off? And that's what you learn on a group project, because you really don't want to be that guy who's in the first day on the job, be like, I don't know how to work as a team. I always code it by myself. That's what the group project teaches you. Plus, it's a ton of fun because you get to work with the other students and really learn from them as well, and see how they write code, how you write code. And that really teaches you a lot, not only on an action level, like how do we actually communicate, but also how do we look at code of other people and how do they look at my code? And is that good code or can that be improved? Now, for people who want to do a launch their own application, right? There we start with like wireframing, really draw every little screen out of your idea, and then we figure out how do we break that down into technical steps and individual features, and how do we tackle each of that feature, and what do we build first, second, third, and then we're going to have a roadmap of what we're going to build and how we're going to launch your own idea, right? So just to give you the ideas, it's like, okay, Marco, can you give me some examples of what people have built? So, for example, what does our group project do right now? We launched it a few days ago, and they're building a chess game, right? We asked the team, it was like 4 or 5 students, and we asked them, hey, what do you guys want to build? Do you want to build like a web application that we can use for something, or you want to build something real technical? And they're like, no, let us write really technical analytical code. And we're like, fine, how about we build a chess game? And now if you think about it, right, we have 2 players playing against each other, and there's so many figures and movements that are allowed, and we need to keep track of every single movement on database level, and we need to keep track like which figure got kicked out, how many are still on the field. And that's what the team does right now, right? So they're developing the database infrastructure, they're also building the front end, they're wireframing, and they figure out how that works. And if you like build your own idea, so there's multiple people. So like, for example, Pete, he had his own idea, and he is really into horse racing and horse race tracks. I know nothing about it, but I learned a lot talking to him about that. And what he did, he basically took the Yelp clone and put it to the next level, because apparently there's not a good place in the US where we put pins on maps for horse race tracks. So he's done that. And right now he's building the analytical engine for it, so people who bet on horse races can actually do that a lot smarter. By actually getting information prior to the race on which horses raced today, what are their records, what are their, did they win, lose last weekend or not? And that's what he uses with his friends, and they're loving that platform, and it grows. And so that's kind of what he's really passionate. Another person, Steven, he built an on-demand delivery platform for medical marijuana, right? You see a little car with your delivery coming to your doorstep, and then you know when to walk outside, and you the payment and everything is already handled. So he moved out to California, and he's building that out there. Pretty much launched it. So those are the ideas, right, that we can have. Group project, an individual idea and project that you want to launch, right? So how do we help you? How do we support you guys, right? So there's multiple things that come together while we're going through the core curriculum and then also the group projects or your own idea. And that's three things. We have office hours, we have mentors, and we have a Q&A forum. And I always like to start with the Q&A forum because I think that even though it sounds like, well, it's a forum where I can ask a question, it is really key to everything else, right? So let's say you code on a Thursday night, you're hacking, you're building your phone, you're just writing some JavaScript to integrate with the Google Map API so you have the pins on the map, and you get an error message, and you don't know what to do, and you like trying to solve it, but you don't know, you're stuck, right? So then you can go and put your error message in the forum, and your mentors are in there, and we monitor the forum. If somebody would put an error message right now in the forum, I get a push notification on my phone saying, hey, somebody needs help, as does the rest of the team. And we help you. Usually we get back to people within like several hours, 2 hours, 3 hours. Try as fast as possible. We're never going to let you wait till the next day or something. So you get that help. And oftentimes it's like a typo. That's something simple, right? So it goes like, hey, you know, on line 37, you're missing a comma. Or like, hey, you mistyped that. You're missing an equal sign here. Those are simple things that you don't see when you code, when you're stuck, right? But we can spot them really quickly. And that means now if you have your mentorship session, you're coming error-free to the mentorship session. So me as a code mentor, I don't have to spend time with you saying like, hey, put a comma here, put an equal sign there. That's not a good time of like how we should use a mentorship session. During a mentorship session, we should go into test-driven development and actually write some tests. We should build an additional feature. You say, hey, you know what would be really cool is if I had stars here for my rating, and they should fill up depending on an average, and I want to calculate that, right? So let's pair program. I write code, you write code, and we build that feature together, right? Or down the line, we're saying like, hey, you know what? Let's focus on a technical interview. Here's like the 3 questions of how to build an algorithm that would be very likely to be asked to you during a technical interview to land a job as a web developer. So why don't we go through this and build that algorithm together? Or what about like database structures, right? You need to know that too. That's how we use the mentorship sessions. And then we don't have to worry about like fixing commas and typos, because that really we can do via the forum. Then we have our technical office hours, right? They're once a week. All the students come together, and we go over the big concepts, right? It's like, okay, what does a controller do? What does a model do? How does the database interact with our app here? And we figured it out. And also what is really important, what I really love is like, you know, you come in there, say it's your first week in the program, you see people who are in week 8, and they ask a question. You're like, ooh, I kind of don't know what they want quite. It's pretty complicated code, but you can kind of see the path of where they are, right? And we always bring it's like, okay, here's what they're working on. We give a quick overview before we actually troubleshoot and answer the question. But then down the line, when you're like week 4, you have students who just came in, and then you're like, they ask a question, and you're like, oh man, I know the answer to that. Can I answer that? And you help somebody, right? And that's that teaching back moment. And that is really important because that's a different way of learning. And it also makes you feel really good if you all of a sudden can help somebody else, right? So those are our office hours. So three things. It's like the forum, the mentorship sessions, we have them weekly. We usually do 1 full hour coding. We used to have them split half hour, but we realized if we do a deep dive in half an hour, we really get to answer all the questions, actually build something and finish topics. And that's like really, really valuable if we can go deep and really work on one skill intensely for 1 hour. And then 1 hour, hour and a half, yesterday with office hours, they went close to 2 hours. So until everyone's happy and we answered all the questions, and then we usually say our goodbyes. And then if you're in a group project, you obviously have group project meetings on top of all your mentorships questions. So now people ask me, Martha, what can I do after I graduate from the Firehose project? So I think the simplest answer is if you graduate and you have an idea of something you want to build, you can think about it, you can break it down into individual steps, and you can go and build that. You can spend the weekend, put your head down, put your headphones on, and code and build it out and build your first prototype, right? Obviously, you have the skills to get a job, but that just comes with it, that you're now able to build your own ideas. So now people usually ask me, okay, how many hours should I invest in this? What is the deal? Is this part-time, full-time, right? And it depends how much time you can put into it. We say the minimum to get through our curriculum, to finish all the additional assignments, to learn the database structures, algorithms, all of that, is about 15 hours per week. Now, there's plenty of people in our program who are putting way more hours in, right? So especially people who look for jobs, we usually say, hey, can you put in 20, closer to 25 hours per week? Because you really want to switch careers, and there's a lot that we need to teach you. And there's students who put in 40, 50 hours a week. Most of them are looking for a job, right? And we want them to put that in because we can always teach you more, but it's how much you put in, it's how much you get out of. Another thing is that I usually tell people is like, how much knowledge do you have already before coming in? You can come in with zero knowledge, but I'm telling you, before you apply to medical school, really make sure that you like to see the sight of blood. And it's the same with coding. You need to know, like, do you like coding before you go into a career where you write code for 8 hours every single day? So think about those things first. And if you have any like, I would like to learn a little more before committing to something like that, let me know. I'll have my email. Just let me know, and I'll give you some resources, and you can code a little bit if you don't have something already. Like if you haven't done HTML, CSS, right? We have a free course that you can just go through and build something and test that a little bit. Other things like, when are you starting students and how does all that work? We usually have students start every Monday. We bring new students on. Right now, I think we're pretty much booked out until the last week of November. So that is something. What we always want from students is we want to see some of the code that they wrote already. We want to see that you actually like to write code before you want to go in a career writing code. If you don't have anything, let me know, and I'll send you some resources, and then we can give you some challenges, and we see how you complete those, and then we can have the conversation from there. I talk to every single student, so the code mentors talk to every single student before we start with you. Really want to make sure that what we have to achieve your goal, right? And if your goal is a little different, or you come from a city where different skills are needed, then we adjust our curriculum accordingly, right? Okay, we need to focus here more on the back end. We need to focus more on style here. We need to focus more on the front end, on making things look good, right? And again, the goal is, if everything you built with us, you had a party, you pull out your phone, you say like, hey, look, this is what I built last night. And people should say nothing else but, wow, you built this? Exactly. Cool. That's kind of the goal we're shooting for with every single application that we're building. It needs to look good, and it needs to actually do something that helps people achieve a certain task. I think right now is a good time for me to call out, put any comments below right now. Ask me what you guys want to know, and I'm happy to answer those questions. I see somebody said, what's the deal 10 minutes late? I'm sorry about that. Google threw a curveball at me, and they wanted me to install an additional plugin. 10 minutes ago, it all worked, and there was an update, and I had to install one, and that took me 5 minutes right when I started to press live. So sorry about that for being a few minutes late. Other than that, I'll quickly jump into my inbox and see if some of you guys ask me some questions. Let's quickly check that, because sometimes we get questions via emails. And you guys should put questions right now into the box below me if you have anything. All right, so there's one is like, oh, Marco, what about pricing? Great question. Totally talk about that. Pricing right now, the full program is $4,500. That includes all the mentorship session, lifetime access to all the guides. Also includes the Hangout, the forum, everything. If you pay everything up front, we give people discounts, so then it is $4,000, give you $500 discount. If you pay in installments, we have several payment plans. One would be 3 installments, one a month, $1,500, or 5 installments of $900 for 5 months. That's the other thing that people ask me, oh, here's a good one. How are the lessons presented? That's a good question. I think we're having a mix, right? So you gotta see this from everything combining. So we're going to have the mentorship sessions, the Q&A. We also have the office hours, and then we have guides. They're mostly written, but there's some videos that explain bigger concepts when you need them, right? How database connects, how the different pieces of a web application work. And then the written guides are written guides for a reason. We used to have a lot more video, but it's really like, if you need to go be self-sufficient, hit that inflection point where you can teach yourself and you can learn, in the real world, there's never going to be a video. Very seldom is there a video. Some other developer explaining to you how to use some code. It's always written guides. So the quicker you learn how to use documentation, read them, the better. Our guides are really detailed, and they're updated like almost weekly, because we get feedback through the forum what works and what doesn't. And so the better thing even is, because down the line, right, you think you're in a group project, you're like, oh, I gotta implement email notifications, right? How do I do this again? Now you have a place where you can go and you can quickly skim the guides and go through and be like, oh, right here, this is how it works. And you also have your code from your earlier application and compare that, right? And so now you have a really good base of documentation of how to build a lot of features, all the features that I explained to you, from Google Map API, payment integration, email notifications, video streaming, image uploading. There's a lot, and you have access to all of those, right? And so if you had a video, you'd always need to go like, oh, watch the video and jump back and forth and figure out is it a minute 8 or minute 11. That's annoying. That's not fast. And we want to be fast because we want to build stuff as fast as possible. So let me check if we got anything else here. Got here. All right. So Brad asked me if this is how much experience he needs, right? So coming in. So I'd say you should have, like, do something, right? Go to Team Treehouse, take some of their examples. Go to RubyMonk, code through some of their Ruby lessons, right? Go try ruby.org, try that, learn a bit of the Ruby language, figure out how that works. Get a little bit familiar with writing a simple Ruby script, right? Maybe build a splash page for yourself, right? With HTML and CSS. Just so you get familiar, you're like, hey man, this is really exciting. I really like that. I like solving those problems, right? Trying to get your splash page hosted on a server and send us the link, right? That's stuff that we like to see. If you have a GitHub profile, put some code up there. Trying to get the GitHub profile going and put some code up there, right? It's reading, again, a lot of documentation. That's a challenge figuring that out. So that is something that is really like important when you start. Cool. I think I answered Brad's question. No, let me check if we got some more here. What's the ratio of mentors to students, Sean? So you're having your own mentor, right? So it's one-on-one. We're gonna meet with you once a week, and you will have, that's gonna be me in a Hangout. We screen share, we pair program. And then if you come to the office hours, obviously there's like multiple students in there depending who shows up, who has time, who has questions, and then there's like 2 or 3 mentors in, and they're helping every student do one after another until we're done. So it's not like a classroom style teaching. Is you go through guides, you're learning. If you have a question, you reach out, and then you get your mentorship sessions to give you these additional skills on top of it. I hope that answered your questions. Let's see if we have anything else. Cool. So Kathy asked me a question. How do the hours fit in with people working during the day? So you can code whenever you want, right? If you're an early morning person, you wake up at 5 a.m. And code for a few hours before work, and come home in the evening and code a little more. So if you work, it's totally flexible, right? Now, let's say the only thing that's fixed right now is the office hours. So if you can't make the office hours right now, there's 6 p.m. Eastern time. There's multiple ways. So if we have a lot of students who come in and they can't make the office hours, we might put a second office hours out. If I need to drink a sip of water. If we can't make it, we always record them, and you can watch the recording afterwards and ask us your questions, and we answer them via email afterwards. So I hope, Kathy, I hope that answers your question. And then other than that, your mentorship sessions, they can be scheduled whenever works for you, right? If you say like, hey, I want them Thursday evening, we do them Thursday evening, right? What we don't try to do is like have things Sunday morning at 8 a.m. because developers don't really work that well on Sunday mornings at 8 a.m. But that's totally up. We have students in Bangkok, we have students on the West Coast, we have students in Germany, Thailand, Bangkok, Germany, all over the place. So we're figuring out the time zones. So it works for both of us, and we're both productive at that time. Okay, I got another question. Is the is this remote or in-house? What location? No, this is all online, right? So you can do this from anywhere. So you don't have to relocate or move and quit your job. You can keep your job. You can do this next to your job, right? Obviously, you can quit your job and put more hours in. That's what a lot of students are doing too. So yeah, it's 100% online. If you really want to come to Boston, where we're based, high five us. Hey, I'll give you the address from our office. You can come by and hang out with us. But yeah, 100% online. So that should work for you. Okay, cool. See, do you have any other question? Cool, yeah, Gary, I hope I answered your question right there with the remote in-house. Other thing you guys can do is go to the site. If you haven't checked out the curriculum, you can see it there and just see all the little things, all the skills that you're learning. Oh, here's another one I just got via email. It's like, what are the technologies that you're teaching? So technologies are like Ruby on Rails, right? Ruby the programming language, Rails the framework. We teach obviously HTML and CSS3. Then we're going to teach you, you'll learn how to use the Postgres database. We teach you SQL, teach you how to build algorithms. We also teach you how to use Git and GitHub for version control and GitHub to store your code and back it up in the cloud, and also for team collaboration and collaborative coding, which is really important because, as I said earlier, that's how teams work. They build software always as a team. That's the real world. We also teach you how to integrate with the Heroku server so you can push your application code live. So you get a URL and it's live on the internet. People can use it. We also do database relationships, that whole theory behind that and how to write that in code. We also prepare people for technical interviews and run you through that. What else do we do? We do mobile first design, so you're going to do that. And we always do JavaScript to make a better user experience and better user interface, so we learn how to do that. On top of that, if you want to learn, like there's sections that we have on test-driven development, so we teach you how to write tests and then integrate them with your application. So we usually do that before the group project, so we ask people to write tests while they build out their group project, so everyone can test that there's nothing broken. We can run the tests. If you don't know what TDD is, test-driven development, look it up or email me. I'm happy to explain that, but that would be a bit too much if I start going off on that rant. But really important, really valuable real-world skills. So that's kind of the thing. Mostly Ruby on Rails, that's really important. That's the framework that we're teaching to build web applications. Cool. Let me check if I got one more. Otherwise, write more down. If not, I'm going to wrap this up pretty soon and do one more check here. Cool. I think we're all done. I didn't get another question via email. Cool. All right, guys. This was a lot of fun. Again, if you have any questions that come up a little later, and you can think about that you didn't think. What about, okay, Gary, one more question. What about JavaScript? All right, Gary asked me a lot. Here we go, JavaScript. I said we teach JavaScript to build a better user interface during the last application in the core curriculum. If you want to go deeper, we can go deeper. What we don't do is like Node.js or any of the other frameworks. That's confusing because we just taught you the Ruby on Rails framework, and then like we add another one on top of that. So JavaScript you will learn, you get a good understanding. We do AJAX requests, not refreshing the page. So you get a really good handle on JavaScript as well. Do we teach Cucumber? We can in the mentorship sessions. If you care and if it makes sense for you and your level at that point, we do that. But then again, it's like, that's not what gets you hired if you know Cucumber and all that stuff. What gets you hired if you can write good code. And that's what the focus should be on. But yeah, we can definitely do that. Sean asked me a good question. How do we track? You guys, keep those questions up. I love them. I will not go until I answer all that. And then Brad just, great, all these good questions. Perfect. Okay, Sean, here's your question. How do we track progress of lessons learned? Is it done through GitHub or some other environment? All right, two ways. Obviously, we have, when you go through the core curriculum, we have 3 applications. After each application is done, we make a code review, right? So you reach out to us, to you and your code mentor, and you say like, hey, I'm done. I'm gonna check your code in GitHub and make suggestions on what you can improve, right? You need to get comfortable with other people looking at your code and making improvements or making suggestions on how you can improve that, and you can do that. Once you're done and we like what you've built, we're going to enable the next application, the lesson for you, right? So you can track the progress that way. And also, we obviously, during the application, we check in with you like multiple times. So you're going to see like, I know exactly that you're on lesson, let's say 37 right now. You're building email notification or user commenting features out. And I also can see in GitHub, you also see all your individual snapshots of your code. So that's where it's tracked to. And we know your GitHub profile, and that's where we communicate. Why don't we do that someplace else? Well, because that's how it is in the real world. You do all your communication via GitHub, and the sooner you learn how to do that, the better off you are. Brad asked me, what's the best way to get you code? I don't quite know. Do you want my code, or do you want to code with me? If you code with me, then it's during mentorship sessions. If it's to learn to code, well, that depends. There's multiple ways. It depends what your goal is. But yeah, Brad, I don't quite understand the question. To see that you mean, what's the best way to get your code? Rephrase it or email me, and I'll email you back right afterwards. Guys, let me know if there's any more questions. If I don't see one popping up in a few seconds, then I'm going to call it a day. Hopefully this was helpful for you guys. If not, again, reach out. Happy to help. Also, if you're in a research phase and like online person bootcamp, go to our website. There's a bootcamp guide. This is not an endless list of which bootcamp is where and how will we rate them. This is like how to do the research to figure out which bootcamp is the best to achieve your goal, right? This isn't marketing. This is just us telling us how we as professionals would look at that, right? And so that might help you. And there's also like a really good list in one of the chapters, what kind of questions you should ask when you actually talk to these coding bootcamps to figure out if they're really good and if they really will get you to reach your goal. Okay. Oh, gotcha. So Brad, here we go. I just got this. What's the best way to get you code if I've written stuff? Gotcha. Perfect. Yes. Reach out to me. Email me your code samples if you have something. Send that over. Just reply to that email or start a new thread and send me something. If you have a GitHub repository, GitHub link, send me that. If not, just attach it. Attach the file to your email, and I can just open it and look at it, right? I'm not looking for the best application of 2014. I'm looking to see like, oh, okay, they can write this, right? And that not only helps me to say like, hey, you like that, but I can also already tell like, okay, this might be the level of coding where you're at, so we can figure like, okay, where can we get you in 12 weeks? What's possible, what is not? And it gives me a good feeling of where you're gonna go. So it's equally beneficial if you send me some code pieces. Again, if you don't have anything, let me know, email me, and I can send you guys stuff that you know, will help you guys like, hey, do this, do this, do this, and then we can look at that and we can talk things through. Cool. All right, guys. I think I'm wrapping this up. I don't see any more questions coming in. I hope this was helpful. And yeah, I hope to hear from you guys in email, and then maybe jump on some individual calls after and talk through your personal goals a little more. Guys, stay awesome. This was super fun. Again, sorry I was a few minutes late. I got a little bit blindsided by some updates that Google Hangout shot at me. Stuff happens. But yeah, this was fun. So take it easy.